I wanted to speak to this experience that so many of us may have had at some point in our lives of feeling like our lives don't quite fit us, like somehow the life we've constructed is keeping us small in some way and not allowing us to fully express ourselves or to be the person we really know ourselves to be. It's almost like we've tangled ourselves up in, what's the phrase? We've hoisted our own petard, because oftentimes we may have constructed a certain kind of life, seemingly consciously, and yet it doesn't actually feel like the one we really want to be living. And very often, well, first of all, I should say that's really, really common, particularly in a society and in a world, well, for most of us growing up in a society, in a world that doesn't teach us to listen to ourselves. We're bombarded with information and ideas from outside, and we're taught very early on to defer to authority, to defer to others outside of ourselves. And we're even given a message that actually we won't be safe and we won't be okay and we won't be accepted by the tribe at large unless we do defer to that authority. So it's extremely common and normal to lose a sense of our own compass, or our own sense of sovereignty, our own sense of inner strength or inner compass and inner direction. And it's very, very common to construct a life based on, let's say, conditioned desires rather than like true soul desires, our true soul desires. And that would explain why our lives can often feel like they don't quite fit us, because they weren't actually constructed by or directed by that inner compass. Our lives have been constructed by the good ideas or the conditioning that we received from outside of ourselves. And for many people, and this is really what I want to speak to, we can get to a point where that feeling small, or knowing we're playing small, or knowing we're living a life we don't fit becomes really, really difficult to tolerate. And without getting into too much detail right now, that can actually manifest in physical symptoms sometimes. I know I myself ended up with a health condition I can tell you about another time, but just to say that our soul will do its very best to let us know when we're not living the life that we're meant to be living, and that can feel incredibly difficult, painful. Like I say, it can have physical impacts on us. We can suffer with anxiety, all sorts of things that are difficult to feel. And for some people, it can get to the point where that, like I did, where it literally physically wasn't possible to carry on living the life that I had created. And for others, it can be that the feeling just becomes so difficult they start to seek some way to alleviate the feelings they're not enjoying in their lives. And so it may be that at some point it occurs to you that you would like to change something about your life. And what very often happens is, although it's clear you no longer want to live the life you're living, it can feel incredibly scary to our ego, to our sense of self, which is there to help keep us feeling safe. It can feel very scary to that sense of self, to consider what might happen when we really begin to listen to ourselves. What might we uncover when we listen to our soul rather than those conditioned ideas from outside. It might be too inconvenient. When we listen, we might discover something that requires us to change things about our current way of being, and it can be very, very easy to fall into to fear around what that might look like. Yeah, at some point we have to make a choice, and that is, do we choose to continue living the life that doesn't feel like it fits and that feels like it's keeping us small, or do we take the very, very brave and bold step, and I really feel that with my heart, to listen deeper to what might be a deeper truth for us, a deeper way for us to live, a way that's more aligned with our soul. But that is the choice that at some point we need to make if we want to live a life that doesn't feel like it doesn't fit, that feels like it doesn't fit. That is the choice we need to make. And I can tell you that when we do begin to listen, it's the most beautiful journey, because, finally, I mean, for me, initially it was very emotional to admit those things to myself, and then actually a lot of anger came up, a lot of resentment momentarily came up towards the people that had invited me onto that path as it happened, because I could see that it was going to require a lot of me to live out those soul desires, and that there were certain beliefs I was going to have to let go of, like life just happens to me. There was going to be a needing for me to step into my sovereign self and to become a true adult, essentially. But at some point it became like a choiceless choice, because I didn't want to live the life I had been living, and eventually I was devoted enough, I had a strong enough vision for the life that could be created from my soul desires, that I was able to find the resolve within me to do what needed to be done in order to create that life, in order to step onto that path. I'm not saying it's all created. I just want to say that it was a conscious choosing to step onto that path, and that required a certain amount of wrangling with my shadow, and wrangling with the parts of me that told me this wasn't safe, or this wasn't sensible, or who do you think you are to think you can have a life, this particular life, or who do you think you are to think that you could actually have, that you could actually realize or actualize those soul desires. And that can be particularly hard, and this is like a just casting out a warning, that can feel particularly hard in a society that in many ways is predicated upon us not feeling that we are entirely able to create the life we want to. I'll leave it there, because this is a huge subject, and I just wanted to begin to introduce the idea, or say that I feel you if you are at the point of wanting things to be different, but wondering what will that really require of me, and perhaps wrangling with that shadow self or with the ego who's saying that this is potentially unsafe. I just want to say I feel you, and I see you, and I love you.